FG blocks 83 billion naira, that the federal government has traced at least 83 billion naira in cryptocurrency and fiat money channeled towards the recent nationwide protests. So they include $50 million of cryptocurrency, $38 million of which were blocked in 4 cryptocurrency wallets, and $4 billion contributed by various political actors in Abuja, Kano, Kaduna and Katsina. And this was part of the presentation by the National Security Advisor, N83bn, as the inaugural meeting of the Council of State convened by President Bola Tinubu at the Aso Rock Villa in Abuja. Now, the Council of State convened by the Council of State meeting, according to multiple reports and sources with knowledge of Tuesday's meeting proceedings, N83bn, who presented on the topic the nationwide protest as it affects national security, also got to reveal that an European has been identified as the mastermind of the proliferation of the foreign flags that were seen during the protest and will soon be declared wanted by the police. One of the sources who spoke on condition of anonymity because he was not authorized to speak on the matter disclosed that local conspirators traced the capital city Abuja, Kaduna and Kano have been arrested. And the Council of State meeting on Tuesday reports that President Bola Tinubu convened the Council of State meeting to discuss other matters, like the recent End Bad Governance protests, the national security, the economy and food security. Back to the heading of that story now, where we are looking at, in summary now, from all of this that have been discussed, from the End Bad Governance protest, where it states that federal government has blocked 83 billion naira protest funds and arrested political collaborators. There were talks about this earlier. Let's get your thoughts.
Well, one thing that is very fundamental is that people have a right to peaceful protests. And that is part of democracy. And in every democratic country in the world, you see peaceful protests, or people exercise their constitutional rights to demand or make demand from the government. Because if democracy is government for the people, by the people, the voice of the people must be respected and must be heard. And so there's nothing wrong for Nigerians to peacefully protest. Underline, when I emphasize on the word peaceful, I am not in support of chaotic or disorderliness, because we must have the rule of law in the society. Now, as regards the question of the National Security Advisor and the government blocking funds that has been money or financing of the protests from outside the country, well, that's their responsibility to do, but they should also exercise such speed in blocking channels of corruption in the country. And they should also exercise such prompt response in ensuring that the voices of the people is heard. What are Nigerians asking for? Good governance. Is that too much to ask in the 21st century society? Many Nigerians don't have access to clean water, to power supply, to good road. Are these things we should pray for, or these are things we should build for ourselves? Are these things we should delegate to a spirit to do? Why do we have leaders? Leadership is a responsibility to work for the people. And when you are a leader, you have to listen to the people. You are there to work for their interest, right? And so when the people are asking for good governance, they are not out of place. They shouldn't be labeled or given all kind of names as conspirators. Or these are Nigerians. These are the same people that you ask for your votes during election time. And I always say that if a ballot box can get to an interior village, development should get to that village. And the Nigerian youths and the Nigerian young people are asking for opportunities to be created so that they can compete with their peers in other nations of the world. So I see no reason why we should blacklist or label these protesters as unpatriotic citizens. I am not in support of chaos or violence. We always preach peace and advocate for peace. The million-dollar question or the million-naira question is, what steps, concrete steps have the government taken to ensure that the demand of the protesters are met. We've been hearing a lot about dialogue and dialogue. Where is the dialogue? And who are those involved in the dialogue? What is the National Security Advisor and the National Security Architecture and Leadership putting in place to ensure a smooth communication process between the citizens and the government? Because communication is very fundamental in security. You must communicate to the people. Because first of all, you are there to secure the people. You are there to protect the lives of the citizens of the country. You are responsible to the citizens of Nigeria. You are responsible to the development of Nigeria, because security is essential in development.
So even though it is our right to protest, you don't see anything wrong with the protest being political, like it was alleged earlier by the FCT minister?
The protest will always have political inclination. That's something that is certain. And even most of the people in leadership today that are, labeling these people as political, they also protest. They've also been actively involved in political protests. So it is not out of place for politics to come in. What is politics? That's the first question. If your opponents, political opponents, have seen your leadership lapses or weaknesses, that's an opportunity for them to constructively criticize you. It's part of the political process. It's not out of place, because we are not in a dictatorship. We are in a democracy. And in democracy, there will be different opinions and different school of thoughts and different views. It is your responsibility as a leader to listen to the different views and see what is best for the country.
But well, we're hearing that the collaborators of the political collaborators have been apprehended.
Well, that's up to them. While they're apprehending the political collaborators, they should apprehend poverty. Right? The biggest, the hydra-headed monster in our country today is poverty. And poverty is widespread. It's widespread. It has encapsulated into every aspect of our nation, poverty. So we should come together now as a country to apprehend poverty, irrespective of our politics. So
you think it's actually way beyond politics, the protests now? We
are not looking at the big picture. We are not addressing the elephants in the room. The elephant in the room, or the elephant that is right inside the room, is poverty. We are not addressing the core issues. We're just looking at the surface issues, superficial issues. We are not looking at the core challenge and the core problems and the fundamental questions that needs to be asked is poverty. So whether you are from the north or from the east, whether you're from the south or from the west, irrespective of your party, religion, tribe, ethnicity, status, education, whatever, the language you speak, your culture, poverty is a national emergency. And that is what we should come together to address. Because whether you're in Sokoto or you're in Port Harcourt, whether you're in Calabar or you're in Lagos, whether you're in Yobe or you're in Damaturu, whether you are living in an island or you are living on the mainland,
you're affected.
You are affected. When you wake up in the morning, you want to put food on your table, kitchen table issues. So everyone have something. We have a unifying factor that should unify us as a country that we should address. We should look at the bone of contention, and we should pick out the bones and stop dancing around the flesh.
But sometimes when we try to address some of these big issues that facing the nation, we always have people turning it into something else. Imagine the young people, or this protest was not just about the young people. I don't like to say the young people. When we talk about the NSAS protest, people would say, the young people stood up. This time we had women, elderly women, we had elderly men, we had different age groups join that protest. It was not just about the young people. So we have people coming up to say no to a particular, should I call it a disease now in the society? And then we have other people, coming in and disrupting the process. So it's more like when there is no unity of purpose, there's always that disorderliness and different things coming in to destroy the main goal. This protest was one that a lot of people called for, even while they were talking about it earlier. Even though they came out to say it was political, people supported this protest, and that's why a lot of people came out, because they saw a change, they saw a light at the end of the tunnel. But look at what happened at the end of the day. When do you think we'd ever get it right with fighting the corruption or issues that we have in Nigeria with unity?
There's something that unites us as a country. And what is that unity of purpose? Is that millions of Nigerian children are out of school. Millions of our young people are walking the street jobless, helpless, hopeless, frustrated, dejected, and displaced, economically displaced persons. I know we've heard so much about internally displaced persons. That's what unifies us as a country. That we have a common problems, we have a common challenge, we have common hurdles, we have mountains that we need to surmount. And that's what unifies us as a country. That we should come together and sit down and ask ourselves questions. How do we move this country forward? Look at the protests. What the protesters are demanding for, is it not clear? Is it not clear to the government? Is it not clear to all of us? Is it not clear that many of our citizens who are supposed to enjoy the dividends of democracy, many of them are homeless. Many of them are affected by flooding, and they are displaced. And there are no programs, no health programs, no support programs to capture most of these people. We wait until disaster strikes or calamity happens before we start running helter-skelter. That is a symptom of a disorganized system. And over 60 years of independence and democracy, we cannot continue to be doing things like we are still toddlers. Imagine a 60-year-old man, or a 65-year-old man, or a 66-year-old man who still not have a sense of purpose and direction. You're going to look at that man and say he's a failure. Because how many years does he have left in his lifetime to get it right? So we need to get it right, for not just for us. I do say, not just for us, but for the children coming up.
Right.
When we are kids, we do say, we do hear a lot of our elders tell us that, you guys are the leaders of tomorrow. We are gradually becoming adults. And I do tell my friends that, see, we will keep telling ourselves these things until one day our children will ask us, but Dad, why? What did you do? Right? What did you contribute to this country?
As the leader.
Were you silent? So when I'm talking about leadership, because I teach leadership professionally, when I talk about leadership, I'm not just looking at those occupying government offices. You listening, you right where you are, you're a leader. You have to lead yourself first before you can lead others.
All right.
You have to lead your family. You have to lead your business. So if you can't get it right at the micro level, you can't get it right at the macro level.
Since you have mentioned individuals now and the roles that they play in all of this, let's look at the NGOs, because you talked about some people who are displaced and the fact that sometimes, in some cases, the government waits till there's a situation, maybe like a flooding, a disaster, and that's when you start trying to help people. But we have organizations that do these things. We have organizations that carry out these activities of trying to help people, especially people who are displaced. So let's also look at some of the challenges that they get to face that limits the actual extent that they can go, that their program can be effective.
I've worked as a humanitarian for over 10 years, for over a decade, and I've worked across this country and beyond, even in other African countries. And I've worked with different NGOs and organizations, and I'm still involved with many. Most of the NGOs in Nigeria are faced with financing. They have financial challenges. They are facing financial challenges. They don't have the financial capacity to respond to the challenges or to respond to the needs of the people or to the constituency that they are focused or target communities. And secondly, most of them don't have the professional training and the capacity to respond to emergency situations. And emergency situations like flooding, fire outbreak, and so many of these disasters, most of these NGOs don't even have the facilities to help and assist and work together with the government agencies to respond to those in need at that time. For example, let's look at flooding. Years back, I did a research with a team. We did a survey of a particular community that was affected by floods. And we discovered that emergency response is poor. Like there is no equipped emergency teams that can respond immediately and will not wait for the disaster, like pre-emergency, like before the emergency, at least equipping themselves to respond through trainings. For example, now, you don't need to wait for the next flooding. We should have government agencies like the Ministry of Health, because when there is cases of flooding, there is health issues, cholera outbreak, food security issues, environmental issues, and so many issues that rises up as a result of the flooding. So now the Ministry of Health, the government agencies, the emergency agencies will work together with NGOs. They will not wait for the next flooding. They will be building capacity. They will be having workshops. They will be having seminars. They will also be funding some of these NGOs. They can support them because it's an ecosystem where everyone should work together for the benefit of the society. So NGOs are faced with financial problems, financial challenges, funding issues, capacity building, and most of them are not equipped to respond to emergency situations like we are facing today.
Do you think we have limited number of the NGOs? That could also be a problem.
I don't really think we have limited number of NGOs. Unfortunately, from my expert knowledge working as a humanitarian for over a decade, most of the NGOs we have in Nigeria, political NGOs, their aim and objectives or their goals is for a political interest. We have more of political NGOs than real core humanitarian NGOs in Nigeria. Many of these NGOs, they have they wear the garment of humanitarian NGOs, but they are political, possibly as a vehicle to drive a particular political interest. And when that politician wins office, that's the end of the NGO. Now they will come to a community and say they want to empower 100 youths, maybe with some microfinance to finance their projects, finance their businesses, or buy them a motorcycle, or buy them a tricycle, or buy them some machines, and they will come under the umbrella of a humanitarian NGO, but they are political NGOs. Why? They are looking for votes. They are not really interested in the welfare of those people. They just want to use them as a stepping stone to the next level. And the next level for most of them is political office. So when the man or the woman gets the political office, that's the end of the NGO. There's no sustainability, there's no continuity, there's no progressive steps taken to ensure that that project survives, right? Many of the other NGOs that we have, some of them are small, like we have a lot of NGOs, even in Port Harcourt, that do what we call Paddy Girl. They go to schools and help young girls with sanitary pads for personal hygiene. And I tell you, I've been on the field a lot. Many young girls, many young women, many young ladies are suffering because most of them cannot even afford to buy sanitary pad, or most of them are using some materials that is not safe for their health. Why? Because they can't afford it. Go to the pharmacy or to a health center and ask for how much it costs to buy a sanitary pad. It's not affordable to many people who can't even afford 1 square meal a day, right? So the NGOs are playing a huge role in bridging the gap and helping even the government to reach out to many people that are not getting the attention or the necessary materials that they need. But most of them, they don't really have that funding opportunities, right? So they cannot function well.
All right, that's it on the NBAD governance story and what we can do to make things better for ourselves while we expect the government to do their part.